What do you think was the earlier days of AI and how did it help in healthcare sector?
I'm pretty sure, at least for a generation, we won't be ready with AI doing everything in healthcare.
To be very honest, healthcare is not accessible and affordable to everyone.
He had been to 17 doctors over the last 3 years, hundreds of MRIs. They could not diagnose what the issue really was.
Will AI come in and replace a doctor? Because a lot of doctors might be thinking, oh, okay, AI is eating up jobs of everyone.
So I think this is where governments and bigger organizations will be taking responsibility.
Hi, this is Mohammad Azan. I'm the Global Delivery Head for Pace Wisdom Solutions. Today, we're talking about healthcare. And healthcare is one of the biggest and largest industries impacting everyone in the global market. In fact, about 18% of the US economy is about for $4.3 trillion dollars is spent on healthcare. Today we are talking about healthcare and the IT industry. The global IT healthcare market size is about $660 billion dollars roughly, and it is growing at the rate of 15% CAGR. And the global healthcare IT market right now about $303 billion dollars. Even in the IT sector, biggest buzz today is about AI and how AI is helping the health or the growth of the healthcare sector. When we look at the specifics, AI in healthcare today is the market size is about $16 billion and is it growing at a staggering rate of 40% CAGR and reach $180 billion by the year end 2030. So today to talk about healthcare and AI, I have my friend Atul from Buckle Consult UAE. Welcome, Atul.
Hi Azan. Get started and talk about AI in healthcare. Very exciting topic.
Very much.
Yeah. So AI in healthcare, I think healthcare is naturally an industry where AI was bound to, help out a lot or support a lot. Like, I mean, everyone knows AI is it's not a new term. The term has been coined like what, 50, 60 years ago, more than 60 years ago. And it's been used in healthcare at least for, I don't know, since the 80s. Because, I mean, few reasons I think why AI is like a perfect contender to be used in healthcare is that it's the earliest digitized industry that we know of. It's been digitized early on because, of course, all of the professionals involved in healthcare, the doctors, nurses, pharmaceuticals, all of that, they're very skilled. So I don't think there was an adoption problem at all for technology and IT as such. And over the years, I can imagine the amount of data that we actually have on healthcare. And yeah, I think before they were generally used for faster data collection and data processing, right? But now, I mean, I think we're at the stage where we can actually take insights on all of this data, right?
So, Atul, today what we see as AI, it definitely is something that has evolved over a period of time, right? So, what do you think was the earlier days of AI and how did it help in healthcare sector? Like, it would have been very rudimentary or very small at that point of time, but there was a huge impact. So, can you throw some light on
Yeah. So
the impact?
earliest uses of AI in healthcare, basically doing testing, digitizing, and I mean, I wouldn't call that AI as such. Maybe there was not too much processing compared to the AI today. But tech in general, from the 80s and the 90s, it was mostly focused on data collection, processing, storing, so that you move from hospital to hospital and your records always there, and it's printed out and it's sent from lab to lab and all of that. Then radiology was, ever since all of these X-ray machines and a lot of medical imaging software started coming up, I think along with the dot-com bubble in the 90s and all of that, that really opened up ways for AI to help because imaging is very data rich, right? I think in today's time, a lot of the imaging that radiologists do is actually assisted by AI, where it basically points out certain maybe cancers or bones or pigments or something, any sort of medical image that you have. It gives, even if you go to the hospital for some checkup, and if you had to take an X-ray, when you get the X-ray today, and when you look at it, you see certain sections marked, it's traced, and there are certain percentages that are shown, 52% this color or discoloration or gray, or, I mean, of course it could mean different things for different body parts and different doctors. But yeah, that's where it started, and then it's moved on to so many other things like robotic surgery. Now you can take you can do like the doctor can be in the US, and there can be a machine doing surgery on someone in Africa or South America or India even, right? So that's there also now. There are hospital management softwares that really use AI today. So on the supply chain side, so hospital is somewhere, if you don't have enough materials, then it's a big problem, right? They have to really keep their supply chain guidelines and principles like to the point, and that has been done over the years by a completely separate vertical of staff. So we don't see in hospitals at all. We usually go, we talk to the receptionist, we ask for a room or whatever, and talk to the doctor or the nurse, right? But there is this shadow, you know department in hospitals where they take care of things like inventory and all of that. I think without AI it would be very hard to predict all of that. So a lot of demand planning, predictive algorithms are used to see, when they should order what. I mean, if it's because these things, there's a lot on back order. So
Right.
with the back orders, they sometimes get oversupply, sometimes get undersupply,
Mm.
right? So some diseases are seasonal. There's flu season, right? So for flu season, you may need different drugs, different things. There's all of that, right?
So it's
The-
become like a part of the whole process and the life cycle. We don't realize, but it is actually happening behind the scenes.
yes, 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 definitely, definitely. Like it's a very complex problem. So I mean, traditionally, either you have a big team handling a complex problem, or you try to use data to find simpler solutions that can assist your decisions. So yeah,
Right.
so right now they're able to basically manage all of that through AI, and make sure there's no shortages. And of course, I mean, there are some things AI cannot fix, like for example, when there was COVID, there is something that came out of nowhere. So I mean, there were situations where I think even the AI needed some training or retraining and help. But I mean, with every anomaly in society, I think the AI also learns, right? So next
Learns.
time there's something like this, so it will. I mean, it'll be ready.
So, Atul, for the sake of audience's understanding, and there may be a lot of viewers of this video who would want to understand a little more in depth understanding of how this healthcare and AI are integrated, right? Let's take few examples or use cases, and maybe you can throw in some light how this actually happens and what goes in to get this information out. So let's say in earlier days, how it happened was if I were to suggest or recommend antibiotic, and I need to do multiple tests based on the sample of blood collected and what kind of bacteria it is there and what kind of bacterial infection it is there. So how can AI help in decision making in this, right? How can we say that, okay, this is my body weight, this is something that I'm allergic to, or this medicine is something that tried in the past but it is not working. So how does a physician or a drug company get into decision making recommending an antibiotic? Or maybe we can take it from the physician's point of view, and
So
how AI
actually,
can
yeah,
help.
I think there are 2 points, 2 sides to the story. I think you're talking about creating the drug. There's a whole topic of the pharma industry, and the whole concept of drug discovery, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna address that first, and then I'm gonna then go back to the
The
physician
physician.
side.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about vaccines first before regular drugs, right? So that we can understand the context of how AI can actually help. So in the past, vaccines are not something new, right? In the past, vaccines have taken 5 years, 6 years to 10 years to be made, right? All of the vaccines, like chickenpox vaccine, smallpox vaccine, polio vaccine, all of these vaccines have taken years to develop and then even longer to administrate, right? But when COVID came about, the first vaccine came out in under 9 months, which and AI has helped that a lot. So, I mean, you must have heard of the whole mRNA technique. I mean, it must have
Yeah.
popped up on the newspaper a lot, right?
Yeah.
So through the mRNA technique, they were able to basically do a lot of simulations and make reaching a more done final product much faster. So this is the first time where in under 2 3 years, there's been a huge percentage of people who've taken the vaccine, and the vaccine's been developed in under a year, right? So that's never happened. So these techniques now you will see being used in other drugs, maybe even in surgery, right? Where they would use a lot of simulations, speed up this process. And I think that will help medicines come out a lot faster. And physicians, now coming back to the physicians also help these pharma companies because they have, I mean, the end of the day, the real life data is with the physicians, right? So today, all hospitals are completely digitized. Whatever you walk into the hospital, they take your height, weight, blood pressure, all of that. If you have a blood test, then that comes through a blood test center, and you can submit those documents, and so all of that is digitized. And things like reactions and side effects and all of that also recorded because you go for a follow up and all that. So over time, this data will become like a rich, you know, like a rich lake of sorts where pharma companies could make better simulations, and then physicians could also prescribe better drugs. So that way, I think the cycle will become a lot shorter. And there was a funny thing. So I saw there's a top VC in the US who's invested in a lot of companies, even in OpenAI, right? So he really mentioned and said that in the next 5 years there will be not an AI assisted but an AI only general physician available to use.
Mhm.
So I think there are a lot of big players pushing to make this a reality, and it's. I mean, today we have the infrastructure and hardware to do it also, and the data has been there for the last 50, 60 years. So I mean, I think it would really speed up things like diagnosis and even treatment.
When we speak about diagnosis, I remember one of the case studies that we were involved in. So one of these hospitals, they had problem, right? They used to hire, they were a new hospital chain and they acquired a lot of doctors to come in, but they had this problem like the knowledge retention problem. They had a lot of junior doctors, and now if let's say one of these doctors moves out, all the practice and the knowledge the senior doctor gets also goes out of the hospital. However,
Yeah.
they wanted to ensure that if we can get this knowledge somehow, put it into few process and some way of identifying these junior doctors. Let's say if it's an orthopedic case and patient's knee is not twisting so much and the angle is so way and there's a swelling, whether to recommend an X-ray, whether it's not, whether there's a fracture or not. So they used to always depend on the senior doctor to recommend. So these junior doctors had a lack of experience. So they wanted to build enough case studies and learning so that AI can be an assistant where they can help these junior doctors like a knowledge repository. Now that we have something like LLMs, you could probably send quick X-ray to this machine, and it would say probably this is what it's not a fracture, it's just a simple twist, or it's a nerve thing, it's not even an orthopedic case. So these some of the use cases, right? We've been involved in all the building the foundational aspects of it to collect this information and put it into process, and then the AI to take over. So I just thought of putting up this word how AI is transforming in day-to-day life in
Yeah.
this
So if
diagnosis
you
process.
Yeah, so if you see, I think so LMs are going to be super useful there. Of course, it'll have to be like a purpose-driven LLM, which is like trained
Fine-tuned.
specially more than fine. I would say maybe even trained from scratch just for of course they would be doing things like assisting and maybe telling the junior doctors to you know check this or check that before they make a decision, right? They would also suggest some decisions, because if there's a delay in procedures that take place, that could be an even higher risk. And of
Risk,
course,
yeah.
doctors also human beings, right? They sometimes they're off, sometimes they're busy with some other patient and all of that, right? So this would help reduce the delay in all of these procedures. And as usual, because healthcare is quite a sensitive area, I think based on the riskiness of the procedures, they would start off with the least risky, maybe sections of healthcare or procedures that are suggested by AI, and there would be a fallback where if the AI knows that this is risky, and there could be potential chance of something more severe, they would say that maybe please wait for the doctor. But I mean, a good chunk over time, this amount will increase, and a good chunk will can be handled and done by the AI.
So, Atul, one question that a lot of people ask me whenever I speak to people who are in the business,
Hmm.
of healthcare or any other domain, they say, okay, AI is helping you in decision making, but isn't it
Yeah.
something like you're giving them something like, how is it different from the traditional way of programming, right? I mean, if this, then do that. If this is not this, do this, right? I mean, if it is
Right.
more of a guided way, or what's the difference? Because people also keep another term like machine learning, or they say deep learning. So how these are different, or how they are interconnected, if you can throw up some
So,
light and
so
in
the
respect to
biggest
the healthcare.
difference, so the biggest difference from some like you mentioned, the biggest difference is, like you said, if this do this, if this do that. So again, there's always human bias there, where you're highly dependent on the person who's programming this procedure or writing these steps down, right? But whereas if an AI is able to learn on data, there's a lot of underlying features or underlying circumstances that it can learn from, more than just what one person has to say, right? So for example, if there are maybe diagnosis for heart stent or something related to heart surgery, right? And you have some 50, 60 metrics, and this is across 50, 60 years with patients of different genetic variation and all of that. So that's a good variety of data, right? But if you're expecting a junior doctor or even a senior doctor who's done a couple thousand cases in their life, right, the procedures and the rules, I would say, that the software would output is highly dependent on what they've done, right? And rather not what they've done or what they remember they've done, right? More than what they've done, what they remember they've done, right? And also, of course, their mood and all of that, right? So, I mean, AI does not have any of these, because I mean, there's no mood and it doesn't differentiate as such, right? Unless the underlying data itself has a bias.
Bias.
So yeah, so that's where it's like you have a panel of multiple experts with one voice, is what I would say, right? That way it can give a lot more, it can cover a lot more ground, right? That's why, I mean, end of the day, it can't take decisions. I mean, it can take decisions, but I don't think we are ready for it to
To
take decisions
take
for us.
decisions.
But yeah, I mean, assisting wise, it would be really helpful. I think it's a game changer for sure.
This podcast would be watched by a lot of healthcare professionals as well, so they would have some doubts about what is this machine learning. Now, AI, since we are using AI in most of the smartphones today in various other ways, so what is this underlying thing, like what is machine learning and what is something like some people call deep learning? How are these two different, or how are they related?
So these are all techniques involved in training AI. So AI would be like the broader spectrum of everything. AI is a broader spectrum, and then deep learning is a specific technique or inside machine learning, which involves neural networks and specific type of transformer architecture used for training large amounts of data, large amount of unstructured data that we don't have that much of an idea about, right? So machine learning and deep learning are basically just words. I mean, it's more technical, and I mean, I know it's used in a non-technical sense all over the place, but it's more for people on the technical side to understand. But AI as such is, I mean, consists of all of these techniques, and once it's applied to data, right, what we hope to get out of it is insights. And today, these insights are acted upon by professionals in, I mean, for example, healthcare or any other industry. I mean, it can make its own decisions also, like we said, but I mean, now it's AI assisted decisions.
So sometimes, look, I had one of my customers who was into teaching of yoga, right? Yoga
Yeah,
and recovery using yoga and things like that. So she was a teacher of this. At that point of time, we wanted to do something on bots. We
yeah,
have this chat bots, right? She was like, okay, I teach yoga at certain point of time, and I'm available and only these number of hours, but I get a lot of inquiries. And how do I make sure that I respond to each of these inquiries? And so she said, can AI or chatbots help me? At that point of time, LLMs were not there. We would, this
yeah.
is early 2016, 2015 times. So we said, okay, we can make a chatbot. And she had a specific questionnaire, like what are the questions that she's supposed to ask the patients, and then the patients would answer that, and then she would recommend these kind of poses. Let's say, oh, okay, you have a back pain, can you exercise for 15 minutes? What's the kind of lifestyle do you follow? Is it very sedentary, or are you very active? How is the pain? Is it a throbbing pain, or is it like a very light pain that you have? So there were certain questions that she would ask, and then she would help. So we made a Facebook Messenger bot where we asked the questions, and she had put few poses of videos, or steps of poses that you need to do based on this. So the consultation on AI was free, and if you want more information, then you had to book a calendar slot and pay for that subscription. As well as if you wanted a video instruction of how to do that, then you had to pay. Like, so it was like a free plan, then the video instruction plan, and the in-person interaction. So this was a business model that we had done. But today, if this was to be done, then people would use something more like a AI
Yeah.
based on
So
LLM,
to
or maybe use a video doctor that would speak to you and then make you feel good. So I think this is 7 years. It's been a great change of how we solutionize things.
Yeah. So today, if you consider the growth in machine vision, which is basically fueled by AI, like you may have seen a lot of editing done by on videos done by AI as well. So using machine vision and then leveraging AI along with that, for example, you mentioned yoga, right? So basically, the AI could be your yoga teacher in a way, right? So with machine vision, it can basically find out edges and corners and see if you're doing the pose in the right way. Are you bending your back enough, or is your leg pointed the right direction, or what angle, and all of that, right? So it can show you that, okay, there's this much percent you were off with that pose, and it'll make you do the right pose. And of course, if you enter like certain information about where you have pain, what pain, how much pain, I mean, that's of course relative. It can suggest poses to improve those, right? Because all of that data is anyways there. Of course, there'll be a lot of training required on it, right? But with LLMs and all of the videos that we have of yoga online, right? I think training it is a lot more easier, right? So in LLMs, there's this thing known as zero shot or one shot or few shot learning, where if you have to teach an LLM something about, let's say, yoga pose, it does not need hours and hours of video to learn. Maybe a couple of videos should be enough. So yeah, I think definitely I've also heard of certain startups and companies investing in this heavily. I'm pretty sure with people nowadays being more aware of lifestyle and healthcare and how, and your how you should divide your day, the work life balance and all of that, People are investing more in workout and exercise, and yoga is definitely a part of that. And apps and software like this will definitely help get people on board and do it remotely without the whole cycle of getting into your vehicle, going through all of these roads, reaching the studio, doing your workout or yoga, and then come back, right? So yeah, it's definitely slowly gonna revolutionize that industry. It's gonna reach a lot more people through this, because today, even in India, the 4G and 5G connectivity is very good, right? You can reach the most remote corners of the country, and things like this will catch up on the whole awareness of healthy lifestyles.
With the remote medicine coming in picture, like during the COVID, there was a huge splurge of remote medicine because travel was banned, and people, if they had very small issues, they had to call up the video call the doctor and get the expert advice. Now let's say case of a dermatology expert, and somebody has got a rash or something like that, of that sort. They are right now sending image, maybe on WhatsApp, maybe on Zoom call, a consultation, and they are taking medicine and they're getting this. I mean, there are a lot of startups who are into the telemedicine. How can AI come in? I mean, will AI come in and replace a doctor? Because a lot of doctors might be thinking, oh, okay, AI is eating up jobs of everyone. And we have, as doctors, they would have spent enough practical training and study and experience over a period of years, and AI can learn things very quickly. So is in future AI going to change few things, or if it is going to take up few works, how can doctors make use of AI?
I think this is a question that a lot of people ask me. I think this is one of the most popular questions when someone starts talking about AI. But so, firstly, doctors who have a lot of experience, I don't think they need to be worried at all, right? Especially because today you will still trust a doctor with 30, 40, 20 years of experience, rather than an AI which released last year or even last week, right? So I don't think they have anything to worry about. So people who are just entering the industry, I think they have a bigger opportunity at hand, because they're still fresh out of university, and they have the time and the flexibility, I would say, to explore all of these AI assisted tools. So, expecting that a lot of medicine colleges, medical colleges, and institutes are going to be including AI assisted healthcare in their curriculum. So, doctors would be basically trained on that, and I mean, it could either improve their output because they have a lot of lab tests and all of that, right? Improve their output, or help them graduate faster. I mean, it could be any of those, right? So the newer generation of doctors are going to be already equipped with these AI tools, and then, like I said, from severity, from the lowest severity all the way to the upper severity, largest severity, AI is going to start assisting doctors in all of those sections. And there's always a possibility that one day it may do all of it. But the thing is, you still need someone monitoring it, managing it. It has to be worth it to use AI. You have to manage the risk along with the benefit, right? So I
So
think,
whoever is going to learn AI and adapt AI into their
of course,
practice is
of
going to
course.
sustain for longer.
And exactly, I mean, that's how it's been always, right? I mean, if you were same thing happened when cars came into the picture, and people were getting rid of horses before it was all horses, right? So we adapted. Maybe at that time it was a big deal, but 100 years from now, then everyone is okay with cars, right? There are not too many horse ranches taking breeding horses or taking care of horses. So I think people will naturally, start adopting AI in their day-to-day studies and life as a doctor. And of course, there's benefit for everyone, right? The biggest problem is in the healthcare industry, there's always a shortage, right? Even if you say that we need more doctors, the whole path of becoming a doctor is so hard and so complex across the world, right? I mean, they're doing a really noble job, And I think that's why it's very intimidating. A lot of people also think that, can I do it? Because it is, end of the day, a very hard and complicated job. 5 years, some countries you need 8 years, and then 8 more years, right? So it's I mean, you really have to be passionate about it if you want to do it. So that's why there's, there's always a shortage. And if AI can fill that gap quicker, I think we really do need it, right? I mean, end of the day, it's about human lives. We cannot let things like insecurity and stuff put that at risk.
So, how can AI help in healthcare, making it more affordable? Because today we see healthcare, the overall general public sometimes who are below a certain line will not be having access to very good care. Either it is because of the infrastructure, or they don't have information or the right reach to diagnose their issues. To be very honest, healthcare is not accessible and affordable to everyone. Right. So,
So,
how can AI help here?
so that's a very, very good question, because just the other day I was reading an article where there was a small boy who was experiencing certain symptoms. He was about a 3 4 year old boy, and he had been to 17 doctors over the last 3 years, and every doctor was basically suggesting something else. I think hundreds of MRIs, right? And they could not diagnose what the issue really was, right? So he had things like pain, he was grinding his teeth at night, and sometimes his leg was dragging, right? So these doctors could not find out, what the real problem was. So I think one of the days the mother or the father just put in all of these symptoms into ChatGPT, and it gave out a list of possible, you know, diseases that their child could have. And there were a couple that the doctors had missed, and they went to doctors back with this list. And the doctors were like, "Oh, wait, this makes a lot of sense. Maybe we should try for this." And they tried for it, and they actually found out that that's what the kid had. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is already a good example of, how it can actually help with reach. And I mean, I'm not saying that, I mean, they still had to go to the doctor, but that's today, right? Maybe in the future, you could go to your doctor or your local, clinic with the problem, and they could prescribe something for it, because diagnosis is half the problem and prescription is the other half, right?
Got it. So that's a good example, but I hope people do not treat themselves right now looking at ChatGPT, because then they would be very much stressed looking at that. So,
No, no, this, yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm not a disclaimer. I'm not suggesting that everyone treats
yeah,
themselves on ChatGPT today, but I'm just saying that this is just a one-off incident where, dead ends everywhere, and ChatGPT opened up another route.
ChatGPT by itself, the disclaimer down says that it can make errors and it is in, the it's not perfect yet. So what are some challenges like this? Right? I mean, people are talking about bias of what this kind
No,
of data
but
is
no,
there
see,
and
this
how.
is a challenge. It can make errors, but then again, we are still today talking about assisting, right?
Assist.
So this same ChatGPT prompt, right? If 3 years ago ChatGPT is available and the doctor that they first went to actually put that prompt in, right? Then they wouldn't have to go to 16 other doctors over the next 2 years, and they would have saved a lot of money,
That's
lot of
also a huge
time,
cost. Yeah,
lot
time,
of,
cost, and the stress.
yeah, right, lot of time, anxiety, stress, all of that, right? That itself is a big deal, right?
Right.
There's a lot of baggage that comes with every disease. We'll eliminate a lot of that. Today will not be. I'm pretty sure, at least for a generation, we won't be ready with AI doing everything in healthcare. Over some time, I'm pretty sure when, 2 generations down the line, when there are generations who are born into, only AI assisted healthcare, then they would be a lot more comfortable, I guess.
AI, and when we're talking about ChatGPT or LLM, we say that it's something which is trained over something, and it is only having limited knowledge of what it was trained on or fine tuned on. How about a possibility where we have a lot of variables today, and if we get enough data about, let's say, I've done a recent scan and that is available in my HIM, electronic health records, EHRs, or there's a recent study done. So how do we get recent data, or maybe some live data like a wristband which reads my current stress or my workout today and predicts something that can happen in the next 2 hours or next four
Right.
hours
So I think this is where a lot of the IoT devices and wearables that we use will come into play. So I remember 10, 15 years ago, a lot of the blood pressure machines, they had just started coming in, the electronic ones with
the
battery and
digital
all of
ones?
that,
Yeah.
right? The digital ones, right? But today they're Bluetooth enabled, all
Yeah.
connected with an app. So
Yeah.
healthcare devices have an ecosystem now where you can connect all your, measuring device, your instruments to one app. So there's a smart weighing scale that sort of has my weight, right? A smart blood pressure machine. There's a smart glucose meter. Then you have your Apple Watch or your Galaxy Watch that is detecting your sleep. All of these wearables like smart rings and these patches for glucose monitors, right? All of
Right.
those collecting data all over the place, right? More and more, I mean, there are new innovative ways to track things, via technology. So all of
How do
these,
they get feed into the LLM or?
so so to be fed into the LLM, first, of course, all of these healthcare companies, they should in fact create integrations with all of these devices, major device producers, right? And I'm sure that's
The
something that
OEMs?
yeah, all of these OEMs, right? And through that, of course, they can use the data that they have, plus electronic health records and the data from wearables. I think that's a big game changer, or it can make a lot of diagnosing easier, right? Because there's always a bias when you even like you're supposed to always be truthful to the doctor. You never know, people are different. They'll ask you, did you sleep well? Maybe you slept well yesterday, but maybe before that you were sleeping maybe 2 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day only, right? So all of this data, I wouldn't say can be verified. Verified is the wrong word. It's like we are policing people, but it can assist the doctor in making better decisions, right?
Getting the root
So
cause
if
analysis
they're
right.
yeah, I mean, of course, more data is always better, right?
So
And
sometimes this is
these
good
can
for
yeah,
personalization, right? I mean, let's say
yeah,
you mentioned about the sugar
exactly,
machine or something, and I can get
yeah.
personalized recommendation of dosage of insulin rather than just taking a general one every day.
Correct. This is also another use case. I mean, good that you mentioned about insulin, because people who take insulin, of course, they're taking it based on a diagnosis that has happened by a doctor
Yeah.
at a certain point in time. Insulin resistance is a highly lifestyle based situation, right?
Right.
So tomorrow, if you start eating the right food at the right time, with the right amount of ingredients, break and all of that, your external insulin needs can change, right?
Yes. Yes.
And
And
that
you
that is
taking
why,
continuous insulin, you may become insulin resistant over a period of
yeah,
time. So
yeah, that as well. So the whole cycle of you going every 6 months to have a checkup with the doctor, making sure there's an appointment, waiting for the appointment, traveling there. I think it's okay at a certain age, but of course, insulin resistance. I mean, it happens at a younger age also, but most of it happens after a certain age, right? And I don't think all of these extra things that we have to do just to find out whether we have to reduce
yeah,
or increase the insulin
devices can come
is
in which
required.
can probably become like, okay, there's a device which continuously monitors your glucose
Yeah, yeah,
integrated with an LLM, and
yeah,
and it reads your historical data and recommends a
yeah.
fine-tuned model recommends saying that, hey, this is the insulin that you need to take today, or you
If it
don't have
some
to take insulin
if
today.
it somehow connects with your Zomato and Swiggy order, then even better,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Just get me the insulin refill because it's getting over. So
Yeah,
one challenge which comes in is when it comes to privacy, and when we speak about personalization is privacy. How is, because if everyone is tracking our data, how do we make sure that the our privacy is at stake, right? So how do we ensure AI is, all that AI is today is generating is because of our data, and these companies are doing that. So how do we ensure that privacy is not at stake?
yeah. So I think again, privacy is a huge topic to discuss about here, because your prescription, healthcare metrics and all of that is very very private and personal. there are of course situations of spouses not telling each other about their
Right. Right.
situation as well, right? So that shows how private it is, right? So I think this is where governments and bigger organizations will be taking responsibility and should take responsibility, where of course it's encrypted in the right way. It's people who are involved in training are not able to identify people who, I mean, basically PI information, right? I mean, privacy is something, I mean, the systems have been designed with privacy in mind first, and then performance, because performance can always be improved later, right? But privacy cannot be fixed later.
Right.
So I
Very
think,
much. Very true.
yeah, yeah.
What are few things that we can expect in the next few months or few years from now in the healthcare and the AI coming together?
I think the coolest thing that we can expect is robotic surgery, right? So I was talking to a group of people who are actually doctors, and they were exploring the topic. So with the kind of advancement in robotics plus augmented reality and rest of AI, right? Doctors can do very very precise surgeries remotely.
Like a
So
sci-fi movie.
like literally like a sci-fi movie, right? You can actually, the robotic actuators and motors that are involved are much more stable than human hands, right? And they already have stabilizers. So it's like before, when you had those old film cameras, that if you shake it a bit, the photo is completely blurred. But
Mm.
in today's cameras, you have digital stabilization, optical stabilization, all of that. So imagine that in a surgery, all of that stabilization, right? You can make more precise cuts or joints and all of that. And best part is, I mean, with the kind of networking capabilities that we have through satellites and 5G and fiber tech, it can happen remotely from anywhere. So doctor could be in Japan operating on someone in the US, or vice versa, or India, Africa, South America, Australia, anything.
So it was a good interaction,
Very,
Atul. Thank
very
you. Thank you for your time. I really
thank
appreciate for this conversation. I think the viewers also would have got a lot of information
yeah,
from this podcast. We would definitely do another catch up soon, maybe very specific to few use
of course.
cases and interesting upcoming trends that we can discuss on healthcare and AI. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah, I love talking about this, and every time I talk about this, it helps me paint a better picture about what's to come, and that's quite exciting for me. So yeah, that's a good conversation, and hope we can discuss more soon.
Thank you, and do subscribe and comment, share your feedback so that we can come up with more such informative content.